Hi, sixth graders. This is Mrs. Gall. Today we're going to talk through slope. Get your math notebook open to a fresh page and put this title at the top. When you're ready to go, press play. Slope is a ratio describing the steepness of a line, and it's also a rate of change. So we've talked about that in previous lessons, and it connects really well to slope. Slope is actually rise over run, which means it's the vertical change over the horizontal change of a line. We'll ask you to memorize this rise over run, so you really want to make sure you have this written down in your notebook. The variable that represents slope is m. Why m? No one really knows, but when you see m in our equations or just written out in different parts throughout this unit, know that that's used to represent slope. Let's find slope looking at this ramp. If we look at the rise, the vertical change of the ramp, we see that it's marked as 15 inches. So the rise is 15 over the the horizontal change, which is marked here in red as 54 inches. 15 is the vertical over 54 the horizontal. Before we write slope, we want to make sure we've simplified. 15 and 54 can both be divided by 3 to get 5/18. That is slope of this board ramp. Let's think about this. Alex is flying a kite. The kite, draw a picture of this for you, is 20 feet behind Alex. So here's Alex. The kite is 20 feet behind him and 70 feet above him. We want to find slope of the kite string. So we want to take the vertical change, 70, and place it over the horizontal change, 20, to find the slope of that line. We would want to simplify if possible. 70 and 20 can both be divided by 10 to get 7/2. It's okay for slope to be improper. We want to keep it improper so that it makes more sense if we were graphing. So 7/2 is the slope of that string. There's 4 different types of slope. This, if I look at my line, will always encourage you to look at it like you would read a book from left to right. This line is going up if I look at it from left to right. That means that's a positive slope. That would be represented with a positive number. If I look at this line and look at it from a book going left to right, it's going down. So this is a negative slope. There are 2 special kinds of slopes that we can also have. In this situation, we have just a horizontal line. This would be a 0 slope because we don't have a vertical change. The vertical change is 0. And the horizontal change is however many points you would have to move to get to the next point. So 0/4, that makes sense as a fraction, it's 0. So that's a 0 slope. My last type is a vertical line. Now, if I were to write this slope with numbers, it would be whatever the vertical change is. You could even just do 1 because it goes every time you go up, you would have a point, over 0 for the horizontal change. That does not make sense in the fraction world, 1/0 or any number over 0. So we would call that an undefined slope when it's vertical, just a straight vertical line. Let's practice finding slope of a line. First thing you want to do is create a right triangle. It doesn't matter which direction you make the right triangle in. This one we went up and then over. We then want to count the rise. So what did we move vertically? 1, 2, 3 boxes. Then we count the run, the horizontal change. we moved 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes. We write that as slope, rise over run. We double check that we have a positive line, so we want to make sure that slope is positive 3 over 4. If you could simplify, you want to make sure you do. Let's take a look at this example. First thing we want to do is create a right triangle. You could either go over and down or down and over. We want to count the rise. This rise is actually a drop. 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes, and we went down, so -4. And then we can count the run. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When we write that as slope, -4 over 6, we would want to simplify that because we could divide them both by 2 to get -2/3. There's a few different ways you could write that. You could write it as negative out in front and then 2/3. You could write -2 over 3, or you could write 2 over -3, but all of those mean the same thing as -2/3. As long as you have one negative, the whole fraction will be a negative. Sorry, my menu bar keeps popping up. Let's look at this one. Practice writing your triangle. If you want to press pause, you can try it. Remember, your right triangle can go either direction, either back and down or forward and up. So my rise is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes. My run is 1, 2, 3 boxes. This is a positive line going in a positive direction, so it's a positive slope. 5/3 is simplest form. Even though it's improper, that's okay. Try this one. Press pause while you try it. Play when you want to hear the answer. Create your right triangle. My rise, I go down 1, 2, 3, 4. My run, I go over 1, 2. I write that as slope, -4 over 2. Divide those both by 2. I get -2 over 1. You could also say -2 as a whole number, or you could keep it -2 over 1. I know this is a negative slope because if I look at it from left to right, the line is going down. Let's try a few more. Notice there's 3 points here. You can pick any 2 that you want to connect using your right triangle. If you use points that are closer together, it's likely you'll already be in simplest form, rather than if you use points that are further away from each other. For example, I could do the blue and gray. My rise would be 1, my run would be 2, so I would get a slope of 1/2. Or if I went blue to red, my rise, should do that in a different color so you can see that. Blue to red, my rise would be 2, my run would be 4. So what do you notice about 1/2 and 2/4? They're equal to each other, and you would want to simplify to that 1/2. So if you use points that are closer together, it's likely you'll be closer to simplest form. Ooh, what is the slope of this line? My rise, I can't make a triangle here because my points are directly in line with one another vertically. So do I have a rise? Yeah, 1, 2, 3 is my vertical change. Do I have a horizontal change? No. Do you remember if this is 0 or undefined? Which one is it when the 3 is up top and the 0 is below? Remember that doesn't make sense, 3 over 0. You can't have 3 pieces when you have 0 in a whole. So this is what we call an undefined slope. It's a 0 slope if the fraction just equals 0, 0 over 3. All right, I've got just a couple more examples for you. What about this one? What would our slope be here? We don't have a triangle, but we have points that are horizontally in line with one another. So no vertical change, but we do have a horizontal change. 3 boxes, or 5 if you look at red to blue. Both of them would be 0 over a number. Does having 0 out of 3 total pieces make sense? Yeah, you could have 3 total pieces and not have any. So this is what we call a 0 slope. All right, you guys, that's all I have for you today. Check in with your teacher if you have any extra questions.